Year one on a brand new hunting property is always a challenge. You don't know every single deer pattern yet, but you still want to hang your stand locations in an area that's going to give you an opportunity to fill your tag. You're also going to have plenty of hunts throughout the course of that first season where your goal is more about gathering inventory rather than tagging a buck. Now those sits might not fill a tag, but they help you figure out where the real opportunities are going to be in years ahead. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through my year one process on this property. We'll start off by diving into what I call the scouting through hunting philosophy and cover the projects that I've already completed to lay the foundation on the property. After that, I'll break down a few stand locations I've got picked out for this fall. Some are aggressive and others are more set up for observation, but each one will tell me something about how the deer are using this property, and together they'll shape the bigger plan for seasons ahead. And by the way, I'm Greg Kazmersky. I work one-on-one with landowners to create predictable opportunities and unlock their land's true potential. I help hunters across the state of Ohio buy and sell land that fits their vision, and I'm working on building a community of growth-minded whitetail hunters who want to take their whitetail strategy and success to the next level. So let's dive in. Now, I feel that this scouting through hunting philosophy is one of the most valuable things you can do on a brand new hunting property. When you're scouting during the hunting season, that intel that you gather is instantly relevant, and it's also applicable for future hunts during the same part of the season in future years. So while you're scouting through hunting, you may get lucky and fill your tag on that day, or you might just learn that a cluster of white oaks is the best spot to be during the first week of the season on the entire property. Now that's the power of real-time scouting. You're learning on the fly, and the lessons you take out of each hunt build directly into your next move. And the truth is, you're gonna observe things during these hunts that trail cameras will never show you. Subtle travel routes, wind or thermal shifts, and the way deer actually behave around a food source or a bedding area. So really the beauty of this philosophy is simple. Every hunt is going to give you a chance to punch your tag while also giving you that necessary intel to sharpen your long-term plan. Over time, those observations are going to stack up into a clear picture of how exactly the deer are using the property. And that's going to be what turns a year one hunting property into a long-term success story. Now, before we get into those stand location breakdowns, I just want to quickly review the projects that I completed on my property earlier in 2025. For those of you that are new here, this is a 30-acre piece in southern Ohio made up of mostly timber with some very steep elevation changes. Technically, I did get to hunt this property in the late season after we closed on it in December of 2024, but 2025 is going to be my first full season on the property. That late season stretch where I got to hunt out here is just really bonus intel for me moving forward. So the main project that I tackled in 2025 was clearing and planting about a half-acre food plot on the lower bench. This plot is long and narrow, and it's laid out to flow with the natural deer movement. And the access into this food plot is extremely low impact, which is always a big priority for me. And one of my favorite things to do is looking at trail cam pictures, so I ran a ton of cameras this summer. I went ahead and placed them along all of the main entry and exit routes around the property that I could identify, as well as the natural transition points across the property. Now that trail camera data that I got has shaped a lot of the stand locations that I have set up for this fall. So beyond the food plot, beyond the cameras, I've also added some mock scrapes along some of the primary travel corridors. Those mock scrapes are going to give me both valuable intel as well as a real opportunity to punch my tag. And I also installed the water hole at what I consider to be the single biggest transition point on the entire property. That water hole is now one more reason for deer to pass through that specific location that was already a high odds setup. And finally, as we close in on season here, I got my cell cameras up and running on the parts of the property that I have enough cell phone service to do so. And in those areas that don't get great cell phone service, I've got some non-cell cameras that I'll check after the 2025 season wraps up. The beauty of these non-cell cameras is that they're also in very low impact locations. So if I need to get in there and check them during the season to get some fresh intel, I can still do that. And that's one of the keys of running trail cameras away from the core part of your property. So all of these projects that I completed filled what I saw as the biggest voids on the property from when I purchased it. Now I can spend the season scouting through hunting and watching how these deer are responding to the new food plot, the new water hole that I put in, and all of these travel routes that I created in real time. This intel is going to allow me to fine-tune my long-term design and tackle much bigger habitat projects in the 2026 off-season. Now, if you'd like to see the complete year one breakdown of my property, every project, every stand location, and how everything ties together, I've got that posted in my Next Level Whitetail SKOOL community. There's a link to join that community down below. Now this first stand is hands down my favorite location on the entire property. From the very first time I walked the property, I knew this spot had all of the makings to be something special. Now this spot is also the most aggressive location that I have. When you get about 2/3 up a south and east facing slope, there's this little flat point where the habitat shifts from moderate cover to the east into a bunch of oak trees to the south. This is just a great natural transition zone. It has historical rubs, a large scrape, I added the water hole, and there's even a natural spring just off of the point that I found this past off season that is going to play into my future plans for the property. What makes this stand so special for me is its versatility. It has the opportunity to be a producer in the early season all the way through the rut. Bucks have been hitting this scrape all summer long, hitting it while they transition between the different cover types. And right now they are absolutely hammering the white oak acorns near the point. But it's not gonna stop there. Once the rut does kick in, this point is going to be a natural travel hub for these bucks. Because of the steep hills in the area, this flat is going to be one of the easiest locations for these bucks to change direction. They can head north to south, east to west, or even climb gradually up to the ridge top, all from this flat. I've prepped 2 different setups here so that way I can hunt it on varying conditions. The first is just east of the scrape and the water hole. To access this stand, I slip up the east slope, staying just below this natural boulder wall that keeps most of the movement above me, and it also blocks any visual of my approach into the stand. Now it does leave me exposed to the beginning of the east facing ridge, but that's not an area where deer typically spend time on the property from what I've noticed, so it's a good trade-off for me. Now the second setup that I have is a little bit further up the ridge, just to the west of the scrape and the water hole. For this setup, I'm gonna access from the north property line, dropping down an old logging road. Now from this stand location, I can cover the spring, a cluster of white oaks, and the main up and down cruising route that these bucks naturally use. Between these 2 setups, I feel like I've got this entire hub covered no matter what the conditions are or what phase of the season we're in. Whether it's acorns in September, scrapes in October, or rut activity in November, this spot has all of the makings to produce. Now the second stand location is more of an observation setup, and it's really designed to help me learn the back end of my property. It's located on a long east-facing slope that stretches for hundreds and hundreds of yards. Most of this slope is mature timber with just a few isolated pockets of cover, and these isolated cover pockets are where deer are going to bed on my property from time to time. This summer I ran multiple trail cameras back here at different elevations. My goal in doing so was learning exactly how they're using the slope, and also to find a tree where I could both observe the bigger picture of how they're using this east-facing slope and maybe even get lucky and catch a buck traveling along a consistent travel route. Now the thing about this stand is it sits at the very back end of my property. With only one access point on my entire piece, I have to walk the full length of the property to get to it. The biggest challenge for me here is the steep elevation. Anything that is bedded up on that east facing ridge could potentially see me on my way into this stand location. But I do have a slight advantage. There's a lightly used trail along the edge of the property that my family and I use from time to time. We walk our dog here during the summertime, and we even have some maple trees that we tap for sap during the winter. And because of this, the deer are somewhat accustomed to light human pressure, so I feel a little bit better about using this trail to get back to the stand. Now, as far as the stand itself, the cover on that slope is very limited. While those thicker pockets do get some bedding, I don't believe that it's very consistent. So what I really want is intel in a few of the flat areas that I already have marked out on the map. One of my plans for this off season is opening up some of the parts of this mature timber. I just don't exactly know yet what areas of this slope are going to be turned into bedding and which ones, if any, are going to become food. And that's exactly where this stand comes in. By sitting this stand a handful of times, I'm going to be able to see how deer already use the slope, visualize how the different improvements could shape their travel, and even pinpoint trees that seem to get consistent activity inside of bow range. Now this isn't a location that I expect to punch a tag right away, but it is the kind of spot that builds the blueprint for what this back slope can become in the future. Now this last stand is all about food. It overlooks the half-acre food plot that I built on the lower bench of my property. Right now this low elevation isn't really used for much else hunting or habitat wise. I do have some future ideas tucked away that might change that, but for right now it's my main access route into the food. By the way, I actually put together a full video on my YouTube channel about building this food plot and the secure hunter access trail that gets me to my stand location. If you want to check that video out, I'll go ahead and link it here. Quick recap, this plot is long and narrow, following the lower bench. It's broken up with this brush wall that I have through the center of the plot, and I also added a live licking branch beach scrape towards the far end of the food plot. Now the plot itself is still in the early stages, not exactly what you'd call TV worthy. For me, my biggest goals in year one were really about opening up the canopy and getting the years of leaf litter off of the top of the soil. There is still a ton of work for me to do before this plot reaches its full potential. But here's the big thing. In a property like mine that's surrounded by a ton of timber, any green food source that you can provide in the fall is going to draw the attention of these deer. Now my plan for this food plot is to hunt it as little as possible. The more daylight deer activity that I can build in this food plot while I'm not hunting there, the higher my odds get when it's time for me to actually hunt it. Now the tree that I have picked out for my stand location sits right in the middle of the plot. From my tree, I've got a bow shot into the pinch that I created by that brush wall and a clear look down to that beach scrape towards the end of my food plot. Now this isn't going to be a stand that I hunt very often and burn out right away at the early part of the season, but when the conditions line up and the deer are doing what I want them to, it should give me a very clean opportunity. Now for me, year one on a hunting property is much less about perfection and more so about progress. By using the scouting through hunting approach, every sit adds a piece to the puzzle, and those pieces stack together into the bigger plan for the property. Owning hunting property is a long-term game, but the results get better each and every season. Now, if you want to follow along as I build this property out, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Best of luck chasing deer this season. I hope that your sits bring you both lessons and opportunities.